One of the main things that I've noticed after designing for more than 400 brands and scaling from 0 to 6 figures as a graphic designer is that pretty much all the clothing brands want the same graphic design work done. The reason I say that is because I think everybody can notice that most of the work is the same thing. It pretty much all comes from this theory that I came up with. And the theory is that Rhude, clothing brand Rhude, pretty much destroyed the whole industry by introducing what are called to be bootleg readaptation of old logos. If you kind of been paying attention to the clothing scene, and especially if you're a graphic designer, you will notice that Rhude was the first ever brand that introduced bootleg readaptation of old logos. So for example, they will take some racing concept. For example, Pirelli, which is, I think, is a tire company for Formula One cars, took the Pirelli logo, changed it to kind of like the brand name Rhude, and slapped it on Aha, right? He done so much stuff, not just Aha, but he done so much other kind of like readaptation logos. But everybody from there literally followed the same thing. If you look at Represent, Cole Buxton, Cortez, kind of like the main brands that, especially in the UK, are quite popular, but everybody followed the same thing. Cortez kind of like introduced it to another sector of the industry, which was mainly when it comes to like the football fanatics. For example, he would take the Brazilian logo and kind of put on a tracksuit, but of course he wouldn't have the football club logo, but he would just change it to, you know, the brand details and brand names. Okay, so everybody kind of followed this readaptation bootleg of old logos, but adapted it to their own brand. I feel like is very boring. Like, nobody comes up with new stuff anymore. They just take stuff that they see from the past and kind of like do it in a new voice. It went from, you know, really introducing it to kind of like the racing Formula One type of vibe, to many people going into this literally ripping off just stuff from the past, like ripping up hard. Like, they would change just like a minimal text. Brands nowadays, they don't even come with a process of like readapting the graphic look of the logo that was before and changing it. They just rip it off. Even present brands, and then they just whip it up and then just put their branding or name into it, you know. And for example, it's like a hat that comes to my mind, which is the Cole Buxton one. I'm gonna slap it on the screen for you guys to see. For me, that type of like bootleg, it wasn't even a collaboration. For me, it's just a rip-off, okay? And if you guys really think about it, like, bootleg now has become such a norm thing. And if you don't know what bootleg is, I don't know why you're even watching this video. But bootleg came as like, you know, this new way of like, we don't care about, you know, lawsuits and everything. We're just gonna take and use it for ourselves. Now it has become this thing where everybody does it, and like, I don't feel like even these brands, you know, sue people anymore, because like everybody's doing it. I don't think like the Brazilian team is just suing people around and then, you know, saying, oh, you can't use our logo and change it to your name. Like, they just don't do that anymore. Bootleg has become such a like a normalized thing, and which is cool to see, by the way, because that's kind of how I came up with as well. All my designs are like concept, which is bootleg. Like, concept designs are classed as bootleg. By the way, I always seen the power of like bootleg, simply because I know that, especially when I was starting out, I didn't have no following, and of course, to get my first clients, I had to somehow like, you know, grab people's attention, which was for me to make concept designs around people, around brands that already known, and kind of like use their wave and emotion, push my own skills, and people would actually, you know, pay attention to that. So I own a lot to that. But yeah, how brands do it nowadays is genuinely very, very crazy. And you might be surprised, like, why is Emmanuel talking about, you know, this random thing that he's found out, you know? Bear with me. I'm going to make it applicable for graphic designers, of course, which is what I do. So for graphic designers, you should think the same thing when it comes to content. Like, for example, you should readapt ideas that are already out there and make it your own, okay? Of course, do not do it to the level that people are doing now when it comes to clothes, which is just ripping off. Because if you rip off people's stuff, like, they're not going to be happy. And I'm not happy when people just copy my content, and you already know who you are, okay? You're probably watching this as well from a burner account. But, like, don't rip off people's stuff, but you can use the readaptation mentality and vibe to your work, and also to your, because most of the stuff that you see out there is not new. Like, is a readaptation of a readaptation of a readaptation. Everything that you see out there is not original, okay? It's the way you package it and introduce it into the market and to the field. That's what makes it really original, that people like. So yeah, take the information how you want and apply it for yourself. But yeah, I'm out.